Good afternoon, collectors. Welcome to Facebook Live. It's May and it's going to be spring here pretty soon. I'm really pleased that you're with me this afternoon. We decided that this month we were going to do Ask Miss Littown. And if those of you who've been around for a while remember our magazine back, I guess we started our magazine, the first issue was in 1988 and it went through 2006. We had a column in there we called Ask Miss Littown where you could send in your questions and we would try to answer them. And that's what we're going to do this afternoon. And I've got a whole big pile of them here that you were nice enough to send in with really good questions, just all over the board as far as the subject matter. So I'm going to try to credit everyone who sent in an email and ask the question, and I'll give you the answers if I have them. I have answers, some kind of an answer for everything. Okay, here we go. The first one is from James Ivy in Denver, Colorado. And James asks, "Hi, Miss Littown. I wanted to see if the release of the silver, with the release of the Silver Bullet, if they will be bringing back the straight track with it, since there wasn't enough track for it to sit on since it retired so long ago." What James is asking is that we had a straight resin track and we had a curved resin track that was used just as a decorative piece for the Haunted Rails pieces. No, we won't be bringing those back, but you know, I'm sure if you're creative enough, you'll probably think of a way to add some track. If you could maybe even use real railroad track, or you can draw something on cardboard and color it in and use that as your railroad track. But you know, those cars don't really move, but they do light up and they sure look cute when they're all hooked up together and part of your Halloween display. So that's a really great question. We had a couple of people ask me that question. So James, thanks for that. Dear Miss Littown, this one is from Tom Moots. Tom asks, do your artists and sculptors ever use a 3D printer to create a building or an accessory piece? It's a good question too. In this day and age when so many people are using 3D printers, no, we don't use a 3D printer for anything. We had two machines back in the early 2000s that were designed, probably an industrial type of 3D printer, where we could put all of the specifications for the building into a computer, which took a lot of time to do, and then it would translate and sculpt out of wax. And as you know, a wax sculpture is what we send to our factories overseas to be used to make the molds that make our production pieces. The wax pieces travel really, really well. They hold it very well in shipment. And so that's what we've used for forever and ever. And the reason we stopped using that is because if you took that 3D printer and put all of the specifications in there and set it going to build that first model, and you gave an artist the same chunk of wax and told them to sculpt this same house, chances are the sculptor would be finished before the 3D printing machine. They took a really, really long time. The results were pretty good, but we thought always that the sculptors' versions were better because they had some more of the softer nuances that a hand sculptor would do. Be kind of like the difference between an injection mold children's toy car and a fine sculpture. You know, those injection molded cars that the kids play with, those are fine if you're not worried about having, 6 million of them that are all the same little red pickup truck. These are collectibles, and we know our collectors look at the subtle differences between pieces, and you wouldn't get that if you had injection molded pieces that were all the same. So we know that there are some differences, and I think we'll continue along this line. I talked to Kiri, our sculptor, who I know you've all seen here on Facebook, and she was around when those pieces were being used, and she really prefers the look of the hand sculpted pieces over the machine sculpted pieces. Sometimes you just have to do things by hand to get the results that you want. And that's what we've been striving for the last almost 50 years. Dear Miss Littown, this question comes from Tyler Campbell in Canada, Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. And Tyler asks, I'm curious as to why all Department 56 SKUs are packaged in a 4-sided retail sleeve and not a traditional 6-sided retail box. Well, we've done it both ways. Some of the gift sets we have done in 6-sided boxes, but most of our pieces are done in the 4-sided sleeves, as we call them. And if you think about it, when you have a box that has a lid on it, and every time you take that piece out of the box, you have to open the lid, take the piece out, close the lid, open it, close it. You are kind of reducing the integrity of that box, and eventually you're going to see a lot more wear and tear on that box. Whereas if you have a styrofoam that all of our pieces are in, and then just slide a nice 4-sided sleeve over the top of it, you're going to get less wear and tear on that packaging. So that's why we've always done it that way. And we know that the packaging is really important for collectors, and it adds to or detracts from the value of the piece. This question is from, actually I have a couple of questions from Jan Kool in Denmark, or not Denmark, he's in the Netherlands, I'm sorry, Jan. And another collector from Greece, Giannis Ypsilos. I thought I had it figured out how to pronounce his name, and Giannis, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Will there be sellers in Europe? I live in Greece, and I pay about twice the price for an item when I order it from Amazon or eBay due to the shipping costs and custom charges. There is a European outlet. If you go to Enesco.com and look for Enesco UK, there is a European arm of our company, and we do sell a few things overseas. We haven't done a lot in villages simply because of the differences in the electrical. But in the last couple of years, we have started doing some of our electrical with a USB port as opposed to a regular plug. So those USB ports obviously are universal and can be plugged in using whatever your local currency is for, or current is for electrical. So I think you're going to start seeing more availability of products in Europe, and we're really glad to see that our products are popular really around the world. So thank you for your questions, and thank you for tuning in to both of these gentlemen. This is from Kelly O'Connor. Hey, has there been any serious consideration given to license Hocus Pocus as a new introduction for Disney? And I bet I have about a half a dozen of those. That would be a great addition for Halloween. It would have to, of course, be licensed, but you never know. Something may come. Thanks for the question, Kelly. Courtney asks the same question about Hocus Pocus, but she also asks, I would like to know if you have any tips or suggestions for people who are new to making villages. Well, we could spend all day talking about that, but my first suggestion always is, when people ask this of us when we go out to open houses and conventions, first, buy what you like, buy what speaks to you, and things that maybe remind you of your childhood, of your home, maybe an occupation. I can't tell you how many times people say, well, my very first piece was a church because it looks like the church I was married in, or it looks like the bank that my dad worked in, or I bought the bakery because my mom worked in a bakery for years. So buy what speaks to you. If it comes from more than one different village, it's okay. It's your village. You can build it any way you want. And we always love to see pictures of what you do. So Courtney, great question. Courtney's from Battle Creek, Michigan, so home of cereal, I think. Okay, Braden Martin asks, good afternoon. Is there a way we can present ideas for upcoming villages? Well, of course there is. You can send them through Facebook. You can send us an email, mslittown@department56.com. If you've asked the question, chances are other people are thinking about it, and that's where we get some of our best ideas. And if we don't do the idea you send in directly, we always write these ideas down and pass them along to our creative team, and maybe that idea sparked another idea that then ends up being a new piece in the line. So we're always looking for ideas, and we welcome what you ask us every single time. Stephen Reams, and he is in Georgia, Grovetown, Georgia. How is it decided how many pieces are introduced for a village? And he says, for example, Halloween. Well, there's a lot of things that go into that decision, Stephen. We look at our production, we look at how many pieces we've done in the past, what the artist's ideas are. We also look at if there are some vendor issues. We have certain pieces that we can make in certain factories. Some factories only do accessories, some only do the lighted pieces. So we have to look at the space available to make some of these pieces. So we may have ideas for 8 pieces, but only production capability in a factory to make 6 of them. So that would be our deciding factor in making only 6 pieces that year. And sometimes we just like to mix things up a little bit. So hope that answers your question, Stephen. Okay, Wayne Russell writes, good afternoon. Oh, I love this question, Wayne. So think about this one, guys. I have the Christmas Lane Peanuts house. I was very happy to see the Grinch house come out this year. Now I have a small corner of Christmas Lane as cartoon houses. I am wondering if there may be a Mickey Mouse Christmas Lane house. I would love to see a Garfield house in my cartoon corner of Christmas Lane. I understand there are significant hurdles to cross for licensed pieces, but a guy can dream. And Wayne, we welcome you to dream. In fact, when I read this question to our creative team, they're like, we never thought of a Mickey house. You never know. Maybe that was just the idea they needed. We already work with Disney and Mickey Mouse in Christmas Lane. I think it would be a great addition. So here's crossing our fingers, Wayne. We'll see what happens. Okay, this is from Connor Young. Connor doesn't tell me where oh yes he does. He's from Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm sorry. Is there a future for historic lines as Colonial Williamsburg? A few years ago we did a few pieces that were licensed by the Historical Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. And they presented ideas, and then we told them if we could do them in porcelain or not. Sometimes the piece that they wanted us to do would end up being so big it would have been a $500 piece, and we knew that wasn't going to be something that was practical in the village. So we worked together when we're working with licensors, and Colonial Williamsburg was very popular in Colonial Williamsburg and on the East Coast, but not so popular other places. So they determined that it was something that was just going to last a few years. Could it ever come back? Yes. Could we do other historical series that might need to be licensed? Yes. We'll have to wait and see. What kind of other historical licensed pieces would you like to see us add? Let's get some ideas from you. This is from Michael Bethold, and Michael is, let's see, does he tell us where he's from? No, he doesn't. He says, I've been collecting since 1993 when my parents gave me Santa's workshop in the reindeer barn on Christmas morning. Collecting has been in my family for many years, and I'm sure many of you can agree with his statement. I have 3 questions for you. Oh, and you can use any one of them for your live stream in May. 1, would Department 56 ever consider bringing back the Classic Ornaments series? You never know. The Classic Ornaments series that Michael is referring to are smaller versions of the lighted houses that we have done. And we did some in, let's see, we did North Pole, we did some Dickens Village, we've done Snow Village. I don't think we've ever done any Christmas in this city. But yes, we've done them at least 3 different times. And you know, I think there's always a possibility that they'll come back again. And several times when we brought out other classic Christmas classic ornaments, they were of retired pieces, so that's kind of a fun thing to do. His second question, could Department 56 have a contest for collectors to select a design for a house or an accessory? We've done this. If you remember, probably 15 or 20 years ago, we had some collectors come in and they helped with some inspiration and some historical background, and each winner came in and worked with a single artist to design an accessory. And that was a great time for both the collectors and for Department 56 to hear what the collectors had in store. Would we ever do it again? It's possible. And we've actually just been talking about it again, so you never know. Question 3, how long does the design process take for any of the Department 56 pieces? Well, it depends upon how much of a hurry we're in. Anywhere from 2 to 6 months, though. When our design team sits down, they kind of give out assignments and say, okay, Scott, you've got Snow Village and you've got these pieces to design. And then he has a certain period of time that he has to get the initial designs in. They go over them, they refine them. He does some architectural versions where he shows the top and the sides and the back, expands on his original design. Then they do a paper model, and then that goes then to the sculptor. So that whole process can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months, depending on the complexity of the piece. It can be shortened down if they decide on something they want to add kind of at the last minute. We've been known to do things in maybe 6 to 8 weeks if we have a deadline to meet. So, you know, just like in any business, if you burn the midnight oil, you can get it done in a shorter period of time. Great questions, Michael. Thank you. This is from Cindy Stalock, and Cindy is in Ellensburg, Washington. My favorite series is Halloween Ghost Town. Is there any way that more pieces can be made for it in the future? We've only done a couple from that series, and you never know. If you've got some ideas, we certainly would entertain looking at the ideas and seeing if there's something that would fit in our current plan for the Halloween Village. Great question, Cindy. This is what I get when I don't have anybody to talk to and I have to do all the talking. Okay. Okay. This is a question from Mary McCurdy. And Mary, I do recognize, I'm sorry, not Mary, Marie McCurdy. I apologize. I have a small light that hangs from the side of the building. It broke off and I've tried every kind of glue to fix it, but nothing holds. Any ideas? Well, my best suggestion would be not to try to fix it, but all of the pieces that are an add-on attachment, a lamp, a light fixture, a flag, a sign, any of those pieces, if you look at the porcelain or the ceramic, they don't go directly into the ceramic. They all have, I'm going to call it a grommet, and it's a little. Sometimes they're black, and sometimes they're clear. What we happen to have in our parts department right now are clear ones, so that would work in any village. And what's happened with your light fixture is it's broken off and it's stuck in this, and it's really going to be really hard to see. Are we going to be able to? Rebecca's going to show you that. They come in a little package of, it looks like there are 5 or 6 of them. What I would do is I would take a small sharp, even just a small kitchen knife, and you can pop the broken piece with the grommet out of the building and then replace the grommet and get a different sign. That would be the best way to do it, because when you're trying to use super glue to glue something that's, you know, you're trying to attach it here, there's nothing, because it kind of sheared off right at the face of the building, it's not going to stick very well. So I would take a little something sharp, pop that piece out. It's just glued in there, and if you're having a little trouble getting it out, use your hairdryer just briefly, and that should soften the glue, and then it should pop right out. Then you can replace them with a set of these grommets that you can purchase online and start over with a different sign. That would be the best way to go as far as I'm concerned. So Marie, I hope that answers your question. Okay. This is a question from Joseph Knight. He doesn't tell us where he's from, but he said, I have wanted to ask a question. We have been able to collect all of the Department 56 Harry Potter pieces, everything but the Whomping Willow, and that's the piece that it's the tree and the car is going around it. I know that it has been retired, but we were able to get the other retired pieces easily. The Whomping Willow is impossible to find. Were fewer of them produced? Thank you. Probably fewer were produced. It was introduced mid-year 2019 and retired in 2020. So by virtue of the fact it was only in the line for about 18 months, my guess is there are fewer of them out there, but not impossible. If you're looking for one of these online, you might try our retailer list that's on the website. What is that called? It's called the Retailer Locator. If you go to our Department 56 website and look for Retailer Locator, you should be able to find one of our premier dealers. Most of those will ship. There'll be contact information there. Give some of them a call, and you might be able to find the Whomping Willow that you are missing. And that's true for anything. Those retailers are our largest retailers across the United States. Not large as far as maybe their stores, but large as far as their stock and what retail products they have available. So try one of those and see how you do. This question is from Malia Buford, and Malia is from Austin, Arkansas. I didn't know there was an Austin, Arkansas. There's an Austin, Minnesota, too. Miss Littown, if each original Snow Village house was a real house, which would you choose to be your house to live in? I thought that was a great question. I would, of course, have to pick the Victorian Revival, which is Melinda's bed and breakfast from a couple of years ago. It would be perfect. It has this great front porch on it, and I would really enjoy living in that house. On the bottom of Malia's email, and people will very often have a quote of some kind that automatically populates when you're sending an email. And I have to read this one to you because I thought it was great. It says, there is nothing that will make you lose your religion more than putting up a Christmas tree. And this is a quote from Uncle Eldon from National Lampoon's A Christmas Vacation. I think it's great. There is nothing that will make you lose your religion more than putting up a Christmas tree. How many times have you had a fight with your spouse over where it goes and how many ornaments to put on it? I know I have. Thanks, Malia. Okay. Michelle Bento in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Say that fast 3 times. Michelle asks, can I order old Department 56 catalogs, like from 1977? Well, the ones we have currently available that you can order online start in 2020. The really old ones, we don't have any longer. If you know someone who maybe has some of those old ones, maybe they can make a copy for you. But we have 2020, 21, 22, and 23 online. So that's as far back as we go right now. And sometimes I was surprised we had that many available, but that's a pretty good selection if you're into saving our brochures. Thanks, Michelle. Victoria Campbell writes, she's from Luray, Virginia. I was wondering what your favorite Department 56 village is and how large your own personal collection is. I inherited 12 North Pole houses from my Nana that sparked the addiction. Now I have over 100. I think that's sweet. My very first piece was the Snow Village Resort Lodge. I love that piece. My favorite village is New England, and I do have pieces from Dickens Village, North Pole, Christmas in the City, and even a couple of Snow Village pieces. I don't know how many pieces I have, but I put up small vignettes in various places in my house at Christmas time, and I buy what speaks to me or what I think my grandchildren might like. So there's always something out, and my Victorian bed and breakfast is out all the time because that's my favorite piece. Okay, Christian Miller writes and asks a really good question that we get quite often. For Dickens Village, how do you decide what landmark buildings to incorporate into the village? Also, do landmark buildings and pieces based on a physical building need to be licensed? I thought I heard that the recent University of Oxford pieces were licensed. But did you also have to get a license for the Victoria and Albert Museum, Kensington Palace, Tower of London, Globe Theatre? Yes, the Oxford pieces were licensed. The other pieces that Christian mentioned, like the Globe Theatre and the Tower of London, that's what we call public domain, and we did not need to get licensing permission to do those pieces. And that's just like in the American Pride series, like the White House, Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial, those pieces do not have to be licensed because they are in the public domain. So it depends upon what pieces we're looking at doing. Like in Christmas in the City, we more than likely have to get licensing permission like we did for the Flatiron Building or the Chrysler Building, pieces like that. Those definitely are licensed, which means they get a cut of every piece that's sold. Okay, that was a good question, though. A lot of people ask that. Okay, Annette Pixley from Oregon asks, I noticed some pieces may be available for years, while other pieces are only available for 1 or 2 years. How do you determine when a piece will retire? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. We've had pieces that have been in line 15 years. We had a piece in Snow Village. Actually, it was part of Christmas Lane called Santa's Wonderland House that came out in 2004 and just retired in 2022. So that was in the line a very long time. It's because it was popular. There were no production issues. The factory didn't go out of business, and we kept getting good orders for that allowed us to keep making that year after year. Consequently, if a piece comes out in 1 year and we don't sell through all the pieces we think we're going to sell, then we might rethink maybe that wasn't a real popular piece, and maybe that's not a piece we should continue to make and offer the following year. So it can be a lot of different things. Production issues is another thing that we look at. If we have a piece that's very difficult to make, and when they're taking it out of the mold and it constantly wants to flop over or doesn't come out of the mold and look quite right, we might decide that because there's so much waste involved that we're going to close production on something like that a little sooner than others. So sales, popularity, production issues, those are all things that we take into consideration on how long a piece is left in the line. Okay. Odell Rivas from Miami, Florida asks, were there any other 25th anniversary ideas for Halloween that were declined or not developed? And when I asked about this, the creative team said, nope. They immediately thought of Silver Bullet, and they went with that idea and developed it. So there really weren't any other ideas that they didn't go forward with. Not that they told me anyway. Okay, Rick Latzer asks, hi, I love seeing the new Legends of Sleepy Hollow, the buildings and figurines. My question is, are there plans for doing more in this series? I really hope so. You didn't hear me say a word, did you? Yep, there will be more. And there's been a really positive response to this series, and I think it's a great addition to Halloween. So I'm hoping we see many, many more pieces for that sub-series. Dan Mercurio from Chicago. He doesn't put down where he's from, but I know that's where Dan is. Dan asks, I don't really have a question, but more of a suggestion. It might be time to reintroduce the Bright Light collection, but more specifically to be made as billboards or items for rooftops that we might have seen back at the time around major cities. I agree with you, Dan. I think more bright lights would be kind of fun for Christmas in the city. I know Christmas in the city is Dan's favorite village, so I will certainly pass this on to the creative team. But if you remember from a few years ago, bright lights looked like they were neon signs, and they were very popular. And who knows, maybe it's time for them to come back again. Okay, Nancy Anilowski, I'm probably messing up your last name, and I apologize for that, Nancy. What do you recommend for cleaning Snow Village houses and accessories? Do not put them in the dishwasher. Now that sounds funny, but when I first started with the company, I had someone who called, and she had a Green Gate Cottage, which is a numbered limited edition, and she said, I've had it out on the counter in my kitchen, and I thought, it really is dirty and I need to clean it up, so I just tucked it in my dishwasher when I did my last load of dishes, and guess what? The chimney came off, the wreaths fell off, there was a dormer on it, all these pieces came off and it faded. Don't put your pieces in the dishwasher. We really do not recommend water or cleaning solvents. You never know how their pieces are going to react to what's in these cleaning solvents, and sometimes even water, if you live in a city where there's fluoride in the water, that could damage the piece. We really recommend using a little canned air. You can use a little paintbrush to get into some of the crevices and get the dust out there, but a good spritz with a little bit of that kind of canned air that you use to clean your computer keyboard, that'll work pretty good. And just a light wipe off with a dry dusting cloth. Some of those microfiber dusters really work well to clean your pieces. But remember, these are fine collectibles. Don't put them in the dishwasher. Okay, I think this is a second question from Stephen Reams. Will there be a mid-year catalog? No. We haven't done mid-year brochures for the last couple of years. The mid-year introductions have been smaller since COVID, and we will continue to not do a mid-year brochure until it's warranted that we do one again. But for now, no mid-year brochures. Has there ever been any thought to make a more current set of British royalty?
Who asked this one?
Oh, I'm sorry. This one is from, thank you. This one is from Martha, and I know Martha is from Canada, and Martha is a big fan of the royal family and has done some beautiful displays, including a beautiful one she just did that shows the coronation of King Charles. In fact, we borrowed one of her pictures. Look for it on our Facebook site on May 6th, which is the day Charles will become Charles III of England. So thank you for that, Martha. Martha wants to know if we're going to do any more current sets of English royalty. She said, I tried to make a coronation display, ended up using a young Victorian Albert and painting their hair gray. I'm not sure Charles and Camilla would appreciate that, but you made it work. Collectors are very clever, and you think outside the box. We do get this question quite often, and I know that lots of you are fans of Dickens and are interested because of the coronation coming up next week. But you never know. That idea has been tossed around. It's like last fall when Queen Elizabeth passed away, people were wanting us to add Queen Elizabeth. Dickens Village is really set in the Victorian times. That doesn't mean that we can stray from that a little bit if we choose to at some point in the future. So we'll pass on your requests and see what happens. Okay. How do I find replacement parts? Well, Daniel Friend from Belton, South Carolina, just go to our website and look under replacement parts. That was easy. Replacement parts? No, there's a whole category of replacement parts. Okay, Anne David Benson, I think we're getting pretty long here, aren't we?
We're getting to 35 minutes.
Okay. I think we'll wrap it up with David's question. No, we got two more questions here. We're going to get David's question and this question. David Benson asked, and he's from Macomb, Illinois, and he said, when Department 56 started the Halloween series 25 years ago, why did you start with two color versions of the Haunted Mansion, the green and the black? My understanding was one was giftware and the other was a village line. Were you not sure which line should be used for Halloween? Did you have an idea back then that the Halloween village would be so popular or long lasting? Well, the black roofed one was for the giftware and the green roofed one was for villages. And the reason we did two different ones is we were trying to introduce our retailers who only bought giftware from us to just kind of just get their toes a little, I'm not coming up with the right analogy, but just to tip their toes into the pool of Halloween villages. And so we offered the black roof version and a small grouping of Halloween pieces to see if they would like to add Halloween to their giftware line in their retail stores. The green version was for all of the other retailers who carried villages in their stores, and we had quite a few retailers who hadn't bought village from us before add Halloween. Did we think we were going to be celebrating our 25th anniversary of this collection? I'm not sure we thought about that, but we've had a great run with it, and it will continue because Halloween, after all, is one of the most popular holidays we have. My last question that I'm going to do today is from Barbara Bestick in Cohasset, Massachusetts. And Barbara's question asks, what was the inspiration for the Snow Village Halloween Gravely Estate? When I asked Scott about this, he said, well, of course, Gravely the butler. And this came out at the time, I think it came out in 2008, when we were still trying to encourage some of our regular giftware retailers into handling more village, or at least handling this popular village, Snow Village Halloween. And Gravely the butler was a mannequin-sized, almost life-size, animated, kind of motion-sensitive butler that we had, and he had a tray, and if you walked past him, he would kind of shake and scare the pants off of little kids, and his name was Gravely the butler. And there was also a maid. She was on the other side of the showroom for Halloween, and she was Sadie. So there was Sadie and Gravely. And so after Grimsley Manor was so popular, they decided that they would add Gravely the butler as well. So that's where that comes from. We're really, really glad that you sent in all these questions. And before we end today, I do have the winners. We took all of these names and I spread them all over my desk upside down and picked 3 names. And these 3 people will be receiving a really nice animated piece from Snow Village Halloween, since so many of the questions were Halloween. And these are our 3 winners. Cindy Stalock from Ellensburg, Washington. Stephen Reams from Grovetown, Virginia. And Amy Eves from Toronto. Doesn't say exactly where. Carp, Ontario, Canada. Amy Eves. So we've got kind of both sides of the country and Canada. So these 3 people are the winners, and within about the next 2 to 3 weeks, you will get a package from Department 56. So congratulations, and thanks to everyone who participated and sent us such great questions. And if they were questions that were specific to a certain department in our company, I made sure that they got those questions directed to them, so that if they were ideas, things like that, that they would be aware of what you're asking. Always feel free to ask your questions. We are taking our break from now until September 7th. That will be our next Facebook Live. We will be sending out a kind of a reminder right before then. Over summer, it's lots of kids on vacation, people taking vacations, so we know people are busy. You're out in your gardens, you're out and about, and we will see you in September, and we will definitely be talking Halloween then. Thank you. Bye-bye.